Number two, his attitudes. Allowing Christ to increase is when his attitudes are reflected more and more as I learn from him. What does it say in Philippians 2? Let's go to Philippians 2. Instead of saying, you know what it says in Philippians 2, let's look at what Philippians 2 says. And you know that this is the great expression of Christ's coming. But look at verse 5. Let. Paul loved that word. It means to invite, to welcome, to open yourself to. It's kind of like the host at the door opening and saying, come in, to those that are coming down the sidewalk. I mean, you feel this warmth of a great host welcoming you in. Invite, allow, welcome this mind to be in you, verse 5 of Philippians 2, which was in Christ Jesus. And what is it? Though he had the form of God, he didn't consider it robbery to be equal with God. In other words, it's talking about his deity and divinity and co-equal, co-eternal, everything that we know from the doctrine of the Trinity. That's who Christ was. But he made himself of no reputation. Verse 7, he took the form of a slave. Now, slave isn't a popular word anymore because of all the atrocities that colonial American Britain and other countries did with slavery. And, of course, Bible translators have softened this. They call it servant. It's not servant, slave. This is an abject slave, the term doulos. There are 8 kinds of slaves in the Roman world, and this is one that you could buy and sell. Slaves were like blenders. You just picked one out, used it. When it wasn't good, you threw it away and got a new one. Jesus took upon himself the form of a slave and came in the likeness of man. And verse 8, he found appearance as a man, he humbled himself. See, Jesus, that attitude, his word becomes what feeds me, and his attitude is what I want to learn. I want to learn to be meek and lowly. I want to learn to be a servant, a slave. You know how you can tell if you're a servant? You don't mind being told what to do. Most people don't like to be told what to do. You can ask them, you can't tell them. They say, don't tell me, ask me. Slaves aren't like that. Slaves are unmoved because they're a blender. Poke the button and I'll blend. I'm a slave. And we think that's bad. We think that independence and fierce individualism and self-sufficiency and nobody's going to push me around, I'm going to have enough money, that's the American dream. That is not God's dream. Don't confuse the American dream with Christianity. God says the way to the front of the line is go to the back. Jesus said, if you want to be great, serve everybody. Not see how many people are serving you. See, that's the attitude. How does Christ increase in my life? His Word has a high priority. His Word, in fact, when I was speaking to these 250 20-year-olds that are going to invade the campuses, I said, we have 2 objects in your life, this and this. Which is more important? What's the order here? Which comes first? If this is more important than this, then you're not going to achieve the transformation of India for the glory of God. And I said, how many of you, now these are full-time, fully supported missionaries. Hundreds were sitting there. I said, how many of you have read the whole Bible through once? I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about them. Not even half of them. I said, you're going to transform South Asia, and the only thing that saves people is the engrafted word, which can save your soul? I said, it only takes 72 hours to read it. And I had them all take a piece of paper. I said, write on that piece of paper how much time you spend every day on Instagram, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Snapchat, and on all the other ones I've never heard of. And I said, and then take a number of minutes from each one of those until you have at least 15 minutes a day to read the Bible through once a year, or 30 minutes a day to read it through every 6 months, or you can do the math. And I had them turn in those papers. We had a sacred vow to the Lord. It was really interesting. They labored. They took their pens out And it was painful. It was like emptying their wallets. They had to cut. One of them said, I'm going to give God 3 minutes from Snapchat. I'm going to give the infinite God of the universe, who created me, who holds my life's breath in his hands, who gave me all the gifts, who's promised me endless life, who died in my place. I'm going to give him 3 minutes from Snapchat. And you know what I mean. And they went right down the line. But you know what? Bonnie and I talked to some of them, and one of the older ones, came up and said, you worked them over again. I said, yeah, we did. Because I've been doing this for years, about 20, with the same mission. Just, they stay the same age because they're always recruiting 20-year-olds, and I've gotten older and older. They bring me because they call me the old-fashioned one. I don't use video clips. I don't, I just use the paper Bible. And the kids think that's really retro. They really like it. But did you know one of them came to me and said, you know what? He said, from that time 15 years ago that you did that, only back then, I don't even remember what it was. It was like AOL or whatever, he said, I have never ceased to let Christ increase when his word is more and more eaten as my food. Thy words were found, I did eat them, and thy word became to me the joy and rejoicing of my heart because I'm called by your name. That's what Jeremiah said. And then this attitude.